Okay, there are a couple of ways to convert between degrees and radians. You might have learned some formulas in school. That's great if you've memorized them. Awesome. But if you didn't memorize them, you don't really have an excuse here. We can still get this right with some cleverness. So first of all, the way that we should be thinking about radians and degrees is they're basically just two ways of measuring something, right? So measuring the same thing. So it's kind of like centimeters and inches, right? Two ways of measuring distance. This is two ways of measuring angles. And the reference chart at the beginning of the section tells us the number of degrees in a circle and the number of radians in a circle, right there. 360 and 2 pi. So even if we haven't memorized the basics of how radians work, and even if we haven't memorized the formulas for how they work, we can figure it out using a proportion because they told us these equivalences, right? So we know if these two values are equivalent, then there's a kind of a relationship between the two that we can use a fraction to represent. So 360 degrees, okay, so let's do 360 degrees is the same as 2 pi radians. So what do we have here? Well, we are given 7 pi on 6 radians, and we're looking for the number of degrees is d. So I know that this looks like a messy thing, but it's really not so bad. So what would we do? Well, personally, I would just kind of multiply, right? So I would say, okay, if I want to get d alone, I'm going to need to multiply both sides by 7 pi over 6. And if I really wanted to show that, right, 7 pi on 6 over 1. So yes, it's a fraction within a fraction, but look, top and bottom would cancel out. So I can do the same thing over here, 7 pi over 6. And the numbers are kind of big, so I'm going to start to kind of manipulate what I've got here as best I can. So I can start to cross out some things that are common to both the tops and the bottoms. So the pi's, obviously, there's a pi on the top, pi on the bottom, cancel out. Let's get rid of the 2 by making the 360 into 180, right? Canceling out the 2 that's kind of hidden in the 360. And then we can also cancel out the 6, right? So 6 goes into 180 30 times, right? Because 6 goes into 18 3 times, and then we got a little 0 at the end. So this is all just basic reducing of fractions and division, and I know there's no calculator, but you know, we can do it. And now what's left over? Well, the 7 is left and the 30 is left, and that's it. So if we just multiply those two things together and get 210, we've now found our value of d. So there you go. That's honestly how I do it. I know that there's a formula basically where you kind of replace the pi with the degree measurement. I forget it honestly because it doesn't really matter. I don't like memorizing lots of formulas because there's only so much space in my brain. So because of the reference chart, I can take this little shortcut and not memorize too much, and then that frees up the space in my brain to actually just do the work and memorize formulas for other questions where I won't have that kind of little way to cheat. So I'm going to put the strategy here as memorize formulas, but really the thing you should be memorizing is that they tell you in the reference chart how many radians are in a circle and how many degrees are in a circle, and you just need to memorize that the reference chart is there and go back to it when you need it.